Global pressure is mounting on Australia to address the plight of 400 refugees detained on Manus Island. Asylum seekers going without food, clean water, power, medical care after refusing to leave the detention centre. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has followed through on her pre-election promise to lobby her Australian counterpart, Malcolm Turnbull, over the crisis, has committed $3 million to help care for refugees at the detention centres in Australia, and of course restated New Zealand's offer to take 150 refugees. The Prime Minister joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning.
If we could just start with what you have achieved on this issue so far. It's been in the headlines here a lot in the last couple of weeks. What do you think you have achieved on Manus Island so far? Well,
certainly there's no lack of clarity between New Zealand and Australia in terms of how genuine the offer is from New Zealand. And we've done quite a bit of preparatory work. We understand what the timelines will be if and when Australia takes up that offer. And we've also, because we've looked into that process and seen that it's going to take several months if we are to take on those refugees for that screening to happen, we've identified that there will be some support that may be required either by groups like the International Red Cross or PNG in providing additional services. So that's what that $3 million is about.
Are we any closer to Australia accepting this offer, do you think?
That's a little hard for me to judge. I mean, as I say, they certainly have it very clear in their minds that our offer is very genuine. In fact, more than that, that we really would like to be in a position to assist. But one of the issues I have is it's over that period has become very clear to me that via Australia is the only way to really achieve that resettlement. They're the ones who have undertaken the screening. They're the ones that provide access to the camps. If we do want to work through a resolution, it will be through them. But as I say, they've, and I said this in the very beginning, I think our original conversation, their priority is the American offer that they have. They want to make sure that they get that underway before they start looking at those additional options.
There was talk, though, wasn't there, overseas when you were in Asia, that progress had been made. Do you, the idea that Australia was somehow opening the door and looking a bit more closely at that. Do you think that progress has been made?
Oh, well, we're not in the process of currently screening and preparation for that 150 to come to New Zealand. So that's clear. That's not what's happening right now. But certainly our officials have had conversations together around what it would take for that to start. But to be clear, we have not started that process. But I think that certainly we're a bit further along than we have been before. We haven't even had officials having those discussions in the past. And I know that it's very clear in the Prime Minister's mind that we're very eager for that offer to be taken up. But as I say, it is something that is the Australians' prerogative. It is theirs to manage.
When we look at some of the stories that have been coming out of Australia in recent weeks, one of them was, just a few days ago, this was that 4 boats carrying 164 people were bound for New Zealand and were turned around. Is that true?
That's a report that I've heard and seen as well, but I wouldn't want there to be a view that there have been no boats up until this point. That has been an ongoing issue.
All right, so you've seen that intelligence report?
Oh, I've seen the reports in the public domain.
You mean the media reports?
Yes.
But as Prime Minister of New Zealand, have you seen intelligence reports on that issue?
Not in recent weeks.
So did this happen while you were Prime Minister?
That's what I'm saying is that I get updates all of the time on matters such as this, and it's been clear to me that people taking to boats is not new. It's something that has been happening over obviously a number of years. So I can't comment really because I haven't seen anything that suggests that this is a new raft necessarily.
No,
or a new wave.
Yeah, okay, you're sure. But it sounds like it is true, is it, that 4 boats carrying 164 people were bound for New Zealand, as per the Australian intelligence
There have been,
report.
in the past, actually, there have been people who have reported that they've been bound for New Zealand, so that's not new either. Australia have picked up people in the past who have suggested that was their destination. Just to
clarify, that is true.
What's that? As I say, I've only seen media reports. I haven't seen any intelligence.
So it's quite common, is it, for boats to be bound for New Zealand?
That has happened in the past, yes.
Have you seen it since you've been Prime Minister, those intelligence reports?
I've seen historic discussion over the fact that people have said in the past that they've been destined for New Zealand. No one, of course, obviously has made it that far, and it's hard to know whether or not that was a realistic proposition.
Does this change your view at all on the way that you've been handling this?
No, I think we have to keep the two issues in mind. Have people being exploited by people smugglers looking for money and to exploit vulnerable people? That's been happening for a number of years. Have people said that they were heading to New Zealand in the past? Yes, that's not new either. What we're dealing with, Manus, though, are people who have been held for a number of years, who have been screened to be refugees, and where Australia is now looking to resettle those individuals. And as neighbours, with a refugee quota ourselves that needs to be fulfilled, we've put our hands up to say we're here to assist in that. I am mindful of the fact that we don't have the same issue as Australia. Proximity and geography means that we haven't had to contend with that issue.
And Malcolm Turnbull has said that their tough policy benefits us, and from what you've been saying, there are attempts to come to New Zealand.
Oh, they have been for a number of years. How genuine, whether or not you're being picked up by an Australian official and it's in your interest to say you were heading somewhere else, of course we don't know. But my point here is that regardless of that, we have an issue of there being hundreds of people that Australia are trying to resettle, and we've simply said, look, we accept that we don't have this problem. We're putting our hand up because we see as international counterparts, we have a role to play here. That doesn't change, of course, the position around being totally opposed to people exploiting vulnerable individuals.
Peter Dutton, the Australian Minister Peter Dutton, has said that the proposal to give $3 million to Papua New Guinea is, quote, a waste of money. Extraordinary statement to make, in opposition to a trans-Tasman partner. What's your response?
Yeah, I did see that report as well.
What did you think?
Oh, look, he's taken a perspective on the issue, and if you look at his perspective on this issue more generally, he's taken a pretty firm line. This for us was about saying, look, this is going to take some time, and there are additional services perhaps that could be offered, and we want to demonstrate that we understand as a player in the region that we can contribute to. We've said that some of that may well go to the International Red Cross, who are making frequent visits to the camp. So it's not necessarily just about the PNG government, but we'll work closely alongside both to see where that need is.
When Foreign Minister Winston Peters was first sworn in, I think it was even his first press conference, he was saying that the Australia-New Zealand relationship needed work and wasn't in good order. How do you think you're going on that score?
Oh, and that was a reference to a number of issues, of course, we've contended with in recent times, citizenship, tertiary fees.
How's it looking today?
Oh, robust, as it always has been. There have been a number of occasions where we've taken, different positions on issues. If you've got a really solid relationship, you can take different positions and know that your relationship will endure, and this is no different.
On the Foreign Minister, what do you think about him suing journalists and actually public servants?
Yeah, as I've said, that is a matter for Mr. Peters. It's a personal matter. In my view, it's not something that I need to...
But it's a public matter, though, too, now, isn't it? He's your Deputy Prime Minister, the number 2 in Cabinet, the Foreign Minister.
He is.
And this is very, very public.
He is, but ultimately he's pursuing this from the perspective as a citizen, having had some of his information exposed, and it is totally within his rights to challenge that.
He's also named as one of the defendants the Chief Executive of the Ministry for Social Development, Brendan Boyle. Do you have confidence in the Chief Executive of that ministry?
And at the moment, that case is still underway. It's not really for me to give comment on something that's underway that's sub judice at this point. But what I can say is obviously the Minister of Foreign Affairs, his interaction with that department from a professional perspective is pretty limited.
Okay, and you and he have been away this week. How do you reckon Kelvin Davis has gone as acting
Kelvin
Prime
has
Minister?
done absolutely everything that I asked him to do, and I've seen the transcripts of the House. Questions were answered.
What about
view,
colleagues telling him what to say in the House?
No, I would contend that actually, having sat in that House for a number of years, when you're asked a question and it might cover off a portfolio outside of yours, it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon uncommon for there to be a short exchange. You know, in my view, as I say, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party did absolutely everything I asked him to do. 3 weeks in, I think there's a bit of judginess flying around, and that's certainly how I'm interpreting this.
Judginess from...
Yeah. Commentators.
Commentators.
Yeah.
The dreaded commentators. Might get a bit more of that, mightn't we? Thanks very much for your time. Do appreciate it this morning. That is Jacinda Ardern, of course, the Prime Minister. It is about 25 minutes to 8.
And coming up before 8 on Morning Report, 2 games against 2-tier nations and 2 losses. Is the Kiwi Rugby League team in crisis? We speak to the rescuers of a 56-year-old yachty, Phil van der Mespel, from his life raft hundreds of kilometres north of New Zealand. And Queenstown gets one of the country's cheapest bus services. Now the headlines with Nicola Wright.
Zimbabwe